investing into it, we're dedicated to it, but that also comes at a price, right? So the Four of Pentacles in its its rawest definition, oftentimes is interpreted as, financial statements, bank accounts, what does our coinage say, where does it stand? Very much shows up in the business or career context if you're looking for career reads. But even more than that, what is worth holding on to? And if it's an investment, whether that's tied to people, career, or experiences, what we hold on to also indicates what we're trying to let go of at times, right? So not all things that we've invested into are good. Not every investment is a good investment. And so when we're trying to look at it and say, hey, I'm holding on to all of this, I have this white knuckle, this iron grip, it's not letting go, right? Okay, why aren't we able to budge? Right? That's a question that almost always comes up with the Four of Pentacles. Why are we holding on so tightly? Why are we so invested? Because you dig a little bit deeper and the Four of Pentacles has some strings attached to it, right? We oftentimes feel secure in what we think is the investment of our own power without realizing that sometimes things can change at a moment's notice. So what's making us hold on so tight? That's also a question that's oftentimes brought out with that one. Four of Wands, and this is considered one of the most beautiful coupling cards in the deck, because the Four of Wands is oftentimes depicted as some form of relationship or marriage. In this one, a man puts a ring upon his wife's finger as they look forward to the sunset, dreaming of the life they'll build together, right? If you can remember, I'll do some math here. So the Ace of Wands represents the fire of the human spirit, right? What gets us up in the morning, what really gets us going, what we're impassioned about. Two of Wands. Okay, that's why it was making so much noise. I'm like, it doesn't jingle that much. My turtle charm on one of my bracelets. Where was I? The Ace of Wands represents the fire of the spirit. Two of Wands, you have some form of intentionality over here, some form of intentionality over here. Okay, if we put it into sports term, you just made a goalpost, right? What is our aim for this? What do we want to get out of this? This is going to define that. Four of Wands is you have one set of goalposts and another set of goalposts facing each other on the field, right? In other words, if you ever heard, if you've ever been to a party before and somebody says a phrase, 1111, make a wish, it comes from tarot, right? If you look here, it looks like the number 11, two wands, and another side, 11, two wands. Two sets of intentionality. And so if you have two goalposts, you've made a playing field, right? You set the boundaries because you have the goals on each side. That's oftentimes used as a relationship metaphor because my fire of intentionality meets your fire of intentionality. We create intention. We also create boundaries of what we can and can't do, what we can and cannot cross, right? And so the terms of agreement is actively created within that field between whoever is there. Where the Four of Wands represents, this idea of home, this idea of belonging, and the idea of a relationship that has more serious intentionality put into it, right? It's not just, fleeting moments of happiness or sometimes just brief moments of fulfillment. This is, okay, we're in it in depth now. We're in it for the long game. What does that mean? What does that look like? Four of Swords, the element of air. Oftentimes depicted by somebody just taking a break. I think this has a very Gothic cathedral look to it, which, that's nice, but it gives kind of the scene from Romeo and Juliet where Juliet does what she does at the end, and it's very unsettling, at least in this version, which is not the intentionality of what the Four of Swords is. The Four of Swords, if we could give a quick summary of it, it means to find a moment of reprieve, to relax. Now, it doesn't mean you stay there forever. It is a moment, not your permanent fixture. But that Four of Swords, okay, boom, we're calling timeout. Timeout. Take a rest, take a day off, relax, recalibrate, You're not getting what you need to right now. And that's probably because either you're too wound up or it's just not hitting, it's just not sticking, right? Whatever the context is, the Four of Swords represents, hey, a moment off is needed, but it's needed with a purpose, right? Now, if we were permanently at rest or just not doing anything, that's more than just sleeping. That is sleeping forever, right? In which case, we would see more indicative signs of endings or just a complete, nullification of the process. The Four of Swords doesn't necessarily represent that. It just represents, hey, go take a nap, come back to it later, right? And depending on what cards show up around it or in context, means, hey, take a moment, reflect on it, come back when you're more prepared. Okay, so that's where the minor arcana are. Now let's look at the majors. First, we got the Lovers, the card of Gemini. So there are normally three cards that really, scare people about tarot. There's Death, which is the card of Scorpio, Devil, which is the card of Capricorn, and the Tower, which represents an uncontrollable wreaking of havoc, but not necessarily havoc in a bad way that is outside of our control. Those three cards most certainly get the worst rap. I can tell you that first and foremost. I consider this one to be kind of the fourth, right? And because we apply whatever definition of love we know to that. However, biggest caveat, Lovers is not just the intimacy of feelings, of the good things. It's also about evolution and choice, right? Now, I think in this depiction, it doesn't necessarily have the classical tarot depiction. And here, there's a depiction of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden when they first meet each other. With the classic depiction of the Lovers in the tarot deck is actually three people, right? Because once you dedicate yourself to a lover's path, lover's pathway, it also indicates who is not there, right? And so we oftentimes have these flowery, budding romantical ideas of what that means, right? And then sometimes this is a tough choice if you have more than one person in your heart, right? It is a very tough choice because love is represented by the choice of investment, not just somebody who we're in a relationship with, right? I have done and have seen entire relationship reads, right? One-to-ones, even beyond, what I do for videos, where the lovers will not show up once because you are just two strangers in a house. Proximity, time, it's not a business, it's a lifelong choice, right? The lovers only pops out not simply if it is true, but if it is dedicated not only to its expansion, but its evolution. Well, I was about to say involvement. Those are not the words. Evolution over time, right? I need to be able to choose to love you every day from the moment that we decide on this, but also choose to love your evolution. And if we're not in that partnership together anymore, then we do not have a lover's connection. We're very familiar, but we're not what we once were, right? And so the Lovers, and this is why I consider that like the secret fourth card that gets a lot of people, up in a tizzy about it, is that we apply the notion of love that we think fits when at times it's not entirely the case, right? If you ever watch one of my one-to-one reads before, you would see me use the phrase oftentimes, I do not call these love reads because they are not always lovely. And this represents why, right? It's a choice. And if we're not down for that choice anymore, then we have to admit that. And then all the flowery ideals that we have come crashing to the ground, not because we're necessarily bad people, but because we are people, right? And giving ourselves the grace to understand the complexity of that emotion rather than just its highs and the lows that we ignore. So that's the first. The second, Chariot, the card of Cancer. And I love my crab people. Cancer is represented by the crab in terms of its depiction of animalistic signage. The Chariot always has the depiction of a driver in some form of carriage or vehicle being pulled by two horses or two animals, two beasts. Oftentimes one is a sleek black stallion. No, it's sleek black I'm forgetting horse names. Oh my gosh, this is really gonna bug me later. Tarot card readers are people too. Um, Regardless, two horses, one white, one black. If you remember the image of the high priestess, you had an ivory tower and a tower of obsidian, right? One that had absolute clarity, the other one are the things that we may never know the answers to. And so the high priestess, when she was doing her evaluation, say, I mean, I know everything, but I still have my truth, right? Here, the chariot says, regardless, what does that mean? We're still pushing forward, right? As it relates to what the chariot is meant to do, it is the most fast acting card in the entire deck. It means not only has the journey started, you're on it at full speed, right? You are in that process. If you're talking about the process of goal orientation and making, hey, you've already started, we are doing it right now. If we are talking about a relationship or, having deeper connections and feelings with another person, hey, we're in that process right now. We need a vehicle. It needs to go somewhere. We can't just sit here having our feelings solely to ourselves, right? The chariot represents the journey and also the multitudes of what is carried in that carriage, right? You can carry a lot, good, bad, and otherwise. As it relates to the sign of Cancer, especially holding duality emotion, or I can feel everything at once, right? Everything's just a blur. We're going so fast down the road. I'm seeing so much, I'm experiencing so much. And that's kind of like why they have the reputation of getting tired easily, right? Being able to balance all emotionality as you experience it and you carry it with you, because we don't have time for stopping. We're going, we're in action. As it relates to, let me go back to the Lovers card of Gemini, the duality of two conversations at once, right? The conversation we have with ourselves and the conversation we have with our designated partner, right? How that relates to Gemini. What's the easiest way I can put this? Being able to feel that depth of emotion based off of reflection and interaction, right? It's a lifelong journey. If the conversation isn't adding up, therefore the breakaway would happen, right? So that's all of it in its upright. Let's turn things upside down. So in its reverse, starting over with the water, the Four of Cups in the reverse. Hey, you still got the same amount of Four of Cups. It's just that, well, we're admitting to it. Again, it doesn't always have to be the inverse or polar opposite. Hold on. Sorry, drank a lot of juice earlier. With the Four of Cups, this more so relates to the idea of, okay, my emotions may not be the nicest things I'm feeling right now. It may not be the most highest version of me or the most morally upstanding version of me that I have right now. Guess what? This is what I got to give, right? It's not simply the dissatisfaction of where things stand, but the admission that, hey, we've gotten to a point where we got to call a spade here, right? I've been so disappointed for so long that I just knocked them over. It doesn't really mean much to me at this point, right? So we become so totally dissatisfied that now we are expressing it in some way, shape, or form. If we're not saying it, it's coming out either in our ethic or our mannerisms, right? The Four of Cups in the reverse. Hey, you had all these options and you knocked every one of them over. Why are you dissatisfied? What's going on here? To the Four of Pentacles in reverse, if the Four of Pentacles upright was that, that white knuckle grip, we're not letting things go, we're just holding on. Four of Pentacles, we're letting it all loose, right? Have a field day, go gamble. I don't know, right? But the things we once invested into did not reveal themselves to be worthy anymore, right? And whether that be even in the idea of splurging, it would still be in the upright, right? Because we saved enough so that we can balance out even some form of economic expenditure. But in the reverse, not necessarily being carefree with money or investments, but the idea that I've held on to way too much and I'm not getting anything from it but a bigger number in my account. Right? What good is having all this money if I can't spend it? But even more so, let's talk about the Four of Pentacles in a different way, whether that be friendships, family members, these connections that we make with people. well, I once held on to who we were as friends. I wanted this to work out so well. And now I just gotta accept that I gotta let you go. Right. I was fighting so hard for this, trying to make sure that, hey, I held in mind the agreement. I did my part. What's going on here? And then I just had to admit to myself this wasn't worth it anymore. None of my investment was worth it because it's having too much damage, repercussions on me. Right. The four pentacles in reverse, what we once held on to so tightly, we now are learning bit by bit to let go of. The four of wands in the reverse. Easiest phrase I can apply, this house is not a home, right? And that's why I said we're going to get to this lovers in a bit, because these two are oftentimes tied together. But if we once had boundaries, or what defines the limits of who and what this is for us and who we are, the four of wands in the reverse, well then somebody made a flag on the play. If we're talking about like football references, there has been something that has gone on that has completely disrespected the boundaries of where these goals were set, right? In that way, the four of wands in the reverse, this house is not a home. I don't feel safe here. I don't feel loved here. I don't feel wanted here. Why am I here, right? It does not provide you any more clarity or comfort to be in this agreement. Four of swords in the reverse, restlessness. Whereas this was just a moment of reprieve, four of swords in the reverse is that, yeah, I tried to sleep and I was too anxious. I had way too much energy. I just couldn't do it, right? Four of swords in the reverse, yeah, it completely ruins the purpose of getting a nap if all you did with your break time was just stay up and contemplate more things, right? That's why the four of swords upright is very much an intentional act, right? It is a purposeful act of rest, whereas we completely ignored that for whatever given reason we have and said, no, I'm going to focus on this instead. Okay, gives you the jitters, gives you the anxious feeling, but it's anxious with a reason, it's anxious with a purpose. Major Arcana in the reverse. Lovers in the reverse, and I definitely get a harsh reaction when people see particularly that card in the reverse, because again, I see it as the hidden fourth card that everybody is afraid of. They always love it when it's in the upright. They hate it when it's in the reverse. And a side note, for Geminis, if I pull this card in your read, that probably just means it's you. I would have to see more signs around it to indicate a deeper connection or a partnership, just to be fair. But lovers in the reverse, okay, well, total eclipse of the heart, love is lost here, right? The idea of dedication to this is not fixable for me. This is not doable for me. I cannot hold up whatever we try to build together. There's nothing to be had because we are not choosing each other anymore, right? That's why I'm saying when it comes to the idea of love, the concept of love and what it means, particularly upon this card, it is an active choice. And if we ain't choosing right by what we want to do for each other, we're not choosing at all, right? Even the choice of non-engagement will break this apart, right? It is an active choice that we make every day. What does that mean to be dedicated in that manner? That's why the lovers comes out in the reverse. This bond, even if it once was there, it is not there or is not sustainable in the form that it currently has. It's just where it's at. And the Chariot in the reverse, if this was driving down Audubon at over 100 miles an hour, this is a full stop, fork in the road. It's kind of like the feeling of being the 10th person at a red light, and then the light turns green and you're like, go, 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 right? Being so mad that we're stuck in traffic, rather than understanding, hey, we have to make a hard stop here for some reason or other, right? The fork in the road, whatever is our impedition, it's there for a reason. So everything that we have, again, all the things that we're carrying, all the cargo that we have in our carriage, or just our personhood itself, everything is coming to a sudden and abrupt halt, right? We're once going at full speed, we're now going stop, 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 stop. We whoa, pulling the reins back in, with the horse metaphor of saying, hey, we can't do this right now, right? We need to have a hard pause to this. So, flipping it all back upright. At the heart of the matter, as a recap of this video, the fours represent what we hold on to, and ultimately and just reflect seriously upon what the cards mean, what we need to let go of, depending on the context. Also, we did the major arcana of the Lovers and the Chariot, Gemini and Cancer. Putting these things together, I hope that it explains, some of the conversations that I engage with when I'm doing my reads, for you as listeners, as the audience, but even more so the purpose behind what each individual card means. So come back to the table, please. Learn with me. And yeah, let's see what the cards say. I'll see you around, card players. Check you later.